Goals! Welcome back to the Roaring Peacock podcast. We've got a big show coming up for you. Matthias Klich. We'll talk about Leeds games versus Man City, Newcastle, West Ham. The Willie chant. We've got Cardiff in the Cup to look forward to. 6,500 going down there. And we've got a new signing. Max Wöber from Vienna, where I am. That's where he's from. He's a Wiener. And Gianluca Vialli has sadly passed away, so we'll talk about him as well. Hello there. To discuss all of this and more, you'll be joined by myself, Adonis, at the Adelites on Twitter. Very nice hello from me. And the Prince of Darkness himself, at Ewan Metcalf Machiavelli. Big Mac.
Hello. Happy New Year, everybody. Good to see you.
Happy New Year to you too, Macca. And that lad from the internet at Barney LUFC 21 Barnes.
All right. How you doing, lads?
I'm very good, thank you, Barnes. After Nora gave everyone COVID for Christmas, that was a present.
Good, nice gift. She wrapped it up and everything.
So yeah, I've struggled through that, but I'm a little bit better now. And you good? 2023? 23.
Great start, mate. Great start. Yeah. I've done fuck all. I should say to Barney, I've not gone back to work yet. So, listen, we work hard when we're at it, but when we have a break, we have a break. So we've not gone back to work. Go back Monday, which is going to be horrific. So I'm just thinking, I'm actually living apart from the alcohol, I'm living the life of an athlete because I'm sleeping about 12 hours a day. And till the mid-morning, I hasten to add, and then eating really well and training quite hard. I've done first two sessions in 2023, feeling good, looking fantastic, obviously, and I was looking forward to having a beer tonight and seeing you lads, which is great. So lovely start to 2023. Monday, ask me Monday, I might tell you something different.
There you go. Okay, and you, Barnes, have you gone back to work?
I was back at work on Tuesday. That been off for 10 days, so it was a bit of a shock to the system. I mean, I don't really do a lot of work anyway, but I was knackered after that first day back. And I've been sleeping until like 10 o'clock in the morning. So I had an early today, and the other day started at 7. So it's a bit of a shock to the system. Getting too old for this working lark.
So, any stories from New Year's? Ewan, did you run naked down the street or something? Stick a firework up your ass, or?
That's pretty much every Friday. That's not reserved for New Year's Eve. No, remarkably quiet. I mean, we have quite a quiet New Year now. We have a couple of friends over and just have some food and have a great time. It's lovely. It's a perfect way to spend New Year's Eve with your close. Nice food, kids and stuff, and it's great, but pretty quiet, so nothing extraordinary to tell you. Obviously, we'll get onto this, but during the Christmas period, we met up some of the Peacocks to go to Man City game, so that'll be something we'll probably come on to. So that was nice. I had a blend like I always do of just really quiet and chilled out, and as Barney said, getting out of bed at 10 o'clock, and then loads of nice family time and busy days. And it's fun. That's what Christmas is all about, and I love it. Great time of the year. And unlike Barney, I finished on the 19th of December. I can't remember which month it is now. It's been that long since I've had to look at a calendar and go back on Monday. So yeah, it's going to hit me hard, that, but built for that kind of shit, aren't we?
We live in some high-rise apartments, so they're not that high, but and there were some kids on New Year's Eve setting off fireworks in the street, but obviously when it's in the street and they're so close to apartments, the fireworks are basically outside your window.
Outside your front door, yeah. Wow.
Had to close the windows. Barnes, New Year's?
I made a curry, and then everyone stays up till midnight. Happy New Year. Then everyone goes to bed. What's the point?
Right.
The best bit is probably the fireworks on BBC One. Me and my lads watched that till about half 12, I think it was. Then I stayed up to watch. I think Shawshank Redemption was on, so I stayed up to watch that.
Hope is the greatest thing. What was it? What's that? Hope can kill a man.
I don't know, but it always gets me, the ending. It always gets me.
Loved Adonis misquotes of movies. It's brilliant. Like Barry Norman. I was quite pleased to get to bed when I did. I went to bed about 3, and last year it was fucking 5:45, and me and my mate had an argument, and he pissed bed. So it wasn't the best. It was like too late. We'd been drinking all day and night, and yeah, it was a bit fucking tense. But yeah, we always do a night. I like Barney. I cooked. I made I was just saying I made a zofrito, which is like a Italian. They have it for like Sunday dinner and special occasions. It's like a very slow cooked, proper meat ragu. Made like a tiramisu and had like cold starters and stuff. So we did food as well. But I'm quite glad to get to bed at 3 o'clock. We do a walk every New Year's Day. We do we walked from here to Roundy Park through like Shadwell, through the bridle paths, and pretty decent walk, and ended up in the golf club bar, having a few pints at like 3 o'clock on New Year's Day. So it was cracking, yeah.
Making everyone hungry. Yes, says Nora.
Yes, Nora. Happy New Year, Nora.
Good evening, guys, says Michael Brown. And all the Michael Browns, I assume. Happy New Year. Leeds, says Liam.
Nice one, Liam.
Liam B, that is. And Riot Badger.
Hey.
Alex. Barney celebrated New Year like Haaland scoring against Leeds. Or Hasenhutel.
Yeah.
Realising that he has to go to work. Some news for you. Bamford is back in training.
Oh, God, don't get out because I hope it kills you. But back in training for what?
So he'll be injured again very soon.
Yeah, for the Special Olympics. Not Special Olympics anymore. What are they called? You know what I mean? Paralympics. Sorry, that's the one.
Massive low, very low blow there from Matt. Forshaw and Cine are back in training the next weeks. Dallas has had another operation.
That's NHS, isn't it? He had an infection, so he had to go back. He's only been on a bed for 5 days in the corridor.
Yeah.
We cleaned it.
It's because they were on strike. Sack them all. Sack them all, I say. Get rid of them.
That's why we got relegated, because the NHS were on strike.
We don't have enough nurses, and they don't get paid enough, so they're all on strike. And the solution is sack them all. What do we need nurses for anyway?
He was meant to be getting a train, but he couldn't, so he had to get the bus.
Angus Kinnear has had a word with Jesse Marsh. Have a word about having a good cup run.
Oh God! Fucking hell. What the fucking mother? The motivational speaker that is Angus Kinnear has had a word. What is it? Literally every Leeds fan that's got any knowledge of the last 30 years just writes off cup games, don't they? It's like, oh, that's a bye. That's a free week. Fucking terrible in cup. I can't see anything's going to make us any better this year.
Someone posted something on Twitter today about our record so far, and I think that the most exciting season in the FA Cup was under Steve Evans, because we got to the fifth round, and that, you know, when what's his name did the own goal against,
only to lose to Watford 1-0.
Yeah, 1-0, yeah. And that season I was so excited. We're in the fifth round of the FA Cup. It's coming home with Steve fucking Evans.
Somebody tweeted that the last goal we've scored in the FA Cup was 2019 against QPR. Is it what's it called? It's got a really weird. I didn't remember him playing for Leeds. Apple, somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tall lad. Finish.
Yeah, he's the last. Yeah, that's right. He was the last guy to score, and that was 2009. Before that, it was bloody Berardi against Newport. We got beat.
Yeah, cracking goal. That cracking goal.
That was a good goal.
Yeah.
I always think of size spitting. Like only to the Spanish.
Only scores bangers. There's Berardi.
He does.
Wöber may play against Cardiff, so that'll be fun. We get to see our present, our distraction.
Get to see a left back who's not a left back again.
Right? Yeah.
Wow, brilliant. It's good this recruitment, like, isn't it?
Yeah.
We haven't had a left back for ages. Well, let's discount Firpo. We still haven't got one.
Go Bell Salzburg, would you, lad?
Yeah.
They don't have any left backs, do they? Oh, close enough.
Oh, well, it's nearly a left back. He's been playing there for 2 years, but he's not a left back. Great, let's get him in. Sounds perfect.
Bamford has gone to live on a farm with Uncle Timmy. He can run free and eat as many long balls as he wants, says Badger. Uncle Timmy. Timmy. Right here. Do you want to talk about meeting up with the Peacocks? That's a nice, fun thing to talk about, isn't it?
No, it's really shit. We hate each other, actually. When we met each other in real life, we all just thought, he's a wanker, I'm off.
I thought the group chat had gone quiet.
Yeah, after that pint I walked out, thought, fuck that, they're better on internet, them lot.
Yeah.
But it was cracking.
When I couldn't smell them.
Yeah, it was cracking. I was really late. I was pretty disorganised because, I had a bit of a mess about getting my ticket, and bless Rob, who finally got me a ticket. It was supposed to be in the box that day, and it all went a bit wrong. So I ended up getting a ticket late. So I had other plans the day and ended up getting late to the box. Barney had already disappeared. So there was Rob, and to my absolute horror, I had to order a rosé spritzer in the box going to a Leeds game. And I was like, I'm not ordering that. Are you winding me up? Do you want a beer? No. Can I have a rosé? Can I have a rosé spritzer, Ewan? I says, can you fuck, sweetheart? no, darling. Not unless I'm taking you home with me later, no. So that was all very amusing. But it was just lovely, to meet up with the guys who, we made great friendships over the years, and, to get together in person, have a laugh, a big hug, and that's just always great. And I went to the game and stood with Rob watching the game, which was great. And then me, Barney, and Rob went out after, didn't we, Barnes? It was a bit of a... Leeds was a bit weird that night. If you forget, it's Christmas, but it was a Wednesday night, so it was a bit dead. And we ended up walking miles to my mate's bar, which was shutting, which was great, and then going somewhere else, which was shutting, and then ending up in one of the most expensive bars in Leeds, drinking caipirinhas, didn't we, Barney?
Oh, they were absolutely gorgeous. Oh,
I introduced
so nice.
She really liked, so that was worth it. But yeah, it was cracking. We had a lovely time. Great socials.
Then got a taxi home. That cost me 40 odd quid. You gave me a tenner for it though, but
13 quid, mate, I think you'll find. I think it went through my pocket.
There you go. Don't spend that all at once.
Yeah, don't spend it all at once, Barney. That'll contribute.
The look in Barney's eyes when he was talking about that cocktail was like, an unrequited love from 20 years ago.
It didn't taste of alcohol though. That's the real problem of it. I was like, I could just drink these all night, and they would. But by the time when you drink all night and then you walk outside, you think, fucking hell, they are a bit strong now.
Hits you.
Yeah, they do hit you, because if you actually drink that cachaça on its own, which is like the Brazilian sort of almost like a tequila, it's quite strong. But when you have it with all that lime juice, it's just great. But yeah, it was lovely, wasn't it? Good times.
Okay, that's that done.
Well, let's just mention the Peacock where we walked in. We had a few in the Peacock before the game, and they fantastically had an amazing table arrangement in front of the bar.
Okay,
remember that, Barney?
Inside or outside?
Inside.
In the Peacock? No, inside at the bar.
I don't usually go inside.
Oh, mate, they had a bar. Well, where the bar is, they'd put 3 or 4 tables strategically placed.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was with you. Yeah, I remember.
There's people sat at them, and it's like there's like 30 blokes stood over you, like peering over you while you sat having a drink. And I don't know why they've done it. It's one of the worst bit of bar management sort of, and retail hospitality experiences I've ever seen. It was almost like kettling people with tables to the bar. It was mad.
And it's like, in my job, I do risk assessments, and I was like, fucking hell, if there's a fire here, we're fucked.
All over that, yeah.
Got your hand over your pint.
Yeah.
It
was like that.
Yeah. Under the giants.
Can I just get past? Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah. No worries. Some guy over there sneezes. Fucking hell.
Yeah, leaning on him as you wait at the bar, leaning on somebody's head.
Oh dear. Let's talk about this because it's on the thumbnail. Clicky.
I don't want to talk about it.
No.
No, I do want to talk about it, really. But yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's bring the mood down, right down.
No.
No.
Let's shit sandwich it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Because I were there, and I'm glad that we had the box on the game, and it's in the south stand. And I thought they were doing a huddle at the end of the game. I couldn't really work out what was going on, and 3 or 4 of the lads had gone to the bar to have a drink, and me and another lad waited back. And I said, "Oh, there's something going on here." And I'm really glad I waited because we saw it kind of all unfold. And just think, you look at that. There's a picture that somebody's put up of like the greyed out people who've gone since we got promoted, and that, and it's like Ayling and Cooper and sort of Dallas, and then it's really sad, I think, because we just had such an identity, and everybody identified with that team, and you're just seeing slowly but surely it get dismantled without any real plan, seemingly to replace with better or similar ability or kind of level of player. So really sad. A great servant to the club, amazing bloke, on and off the pitch. Brilliant shithouse. We've just been watching some clips of Batty before, haven't we? And brilliant shithouser, wound people up, got in people's heads. But just ability-wise, when he was on it, he made the team tick a lot of the time, and he was a proper Bielsa player where he could work hard and up and down. But then when he got on the stuff with it, he was capable. Beautiful, brilliant, iconic goals. And as I say, when you saw it unfold I was really glad he got on. It was a shame he couldn't have scored the winner. That would have been just perfect, wouldn't it? But watching walk around the pitch, floods of tears was just really, really sad. And there's a picture, I put it up on Twitter, and it's gone, quite a lot of people have liked it, of him banging there was a lot of nice bits of that moment, but he sort of reaches up and bangs the kind of "We Are Leeds" sign for the last time with almost his last sort of bit of emotional energy, and I think it's a beautiful moment. He's created another great moment. So yeah, a lot of just great things to say about him. There's nothing negative about Klich as a player, and I wish probably in a way they were getting a start ahead of him, and you think he could probably still do a job above them. I'll tell you something that I did notice when I was watching. It was quite amusing because like when Jesse Marsh came, he was very polished and very enthusiastic and quite cool, and all this American enthusiasm and exuberance. When he was putting his T-shirt on, we'll come on to the shit. We'll let other people speak, and let's talk about the poor organisation from the club. But obviously, the kind of T-shirt thing looked like it was getting brought on, and Jesse was like walking like his black jacket on, and whatever he had underneath, I thought it was a Leeds top. But he took that top off to put the T-shirt on and his jacket, and he rolled up, scrunched up whatever T-shirt he had or top that he had on underneath. It was a Leeds training top or whatever. And he threw it towards the crowd from quite a way away, actually, into the south stand, and it hit a female photographer in the face. But like you're thinking about a garment, it wouldn't be very hard. But it actually proper hit her. I don't know if he'd rolled it up that much, but when he hit it, she was like, a bit of a shock. And he was like, oh, really sorry, really sorry. So you see these little moments, don't you, that unfold in front of you. I think all his cool, all his kind of control has gone. He can't even throw a shirt into the south stand now without hitting a female photographer in the face. But yeah, brilliant moment. Really glad I stayed to watch it. Well, almost by accident, but and he goes with everybody's blessing, doesn't he? With lots of great memories. Yeah. What more do you want to do when you leave a club? Barney's crying already. Look.
It was just at the end, final whistle, and then all of a sudden, like clickies on his horn. Is it haunches? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Like that, and then all of a sudden, some players went around him, and then everyone started chanting the chant, and then next thing, the screens does like a montage of players. Like, what the fuck's happening here? The stadium was already half empty by then. The next thing is like Pablo was on the screen saying thank you to Clicky and other players and ex-players, and then he's going around the stadium clapping everyone, crying. Like, is he going then? So that was really, really badly organised. But someone sent me a DM today, and apparently Clicky didn't sign his agreement that he was going to leave the club before the match, so the club couldn't do anything about it. So that's why it felt a little bit disorganised. But even so, it looked like he was going to leave, and you would have thought, no, this needs to be done properly. And it just feels again that we couldn't experience, many of us couldn't experience seeing Pablo and Berardi leave because the crowd restrictions during COVID. So there's like those players, and Clicky for me was such a, like you said, he's a Bielsa footballer, but some of the stuff he did in that first season, it just reminded me to Corey. He was so classy on the ball at times, so classy, and he was scoring goals. And that I remember that midfield under in the first season was Clicky, Forshaw, and Phillips, and it was such a good midfield. They complemented each other really, really well. And I know it sounds really corny, but it was like one of those modern footballers that was old school. He probably runs his own Twitter account, doesn't give a shit, and he's very just down to earth and just enjoy being a footballer. And he just seems a really, really genuine guy as well.
Yeah, plays video games.
Yeah.
Yeah, says what he wants,
cigars,
like you said.
Gets pissed.
Smokes cigars, gets pissed.
I always like the somebody said about he'd left his car for 2 weeks after that promotion. His car was in the car park at Ellen Road for 2 weeks, but in the meantime, he'd been on the bench at Derby. So he's obviously not in a fit state to drive, but fit enough to get on the bench at a football match. Brilliant.
Yeah, most of this squad were still pissed or incredibly hungover, and we ran the furthest and hardest.
Yeah.
In that game. Yeah, graffiti, got a tattoo of the white rose, of course. Yeah, constantly underestimated by his managers as well. He slipped. I think it was against Cardiff.
Cardiff,
yeah.
Yeah, and then so after that slip, he was dropped and never really played again by Christiansen.
Yeah.
And then
That's the mark of the man, though, isn't it? Mark of the man. Sorry,
yeah.
Tony.
No, you're right. Sent out on loan to Utrecht in the Netherlands. Sort of came back, and even Bielsa wasn't sure on him. But then I can't remember who it was who got injured in midfield. I think it was Forshaw.
Probably Forshaw. It's got to be Forshaw, hasn't it? A lot of averages, I'll say Forshaw.
But he was even played centre back and defensive midfielder in that sort of underwhelming Bielsa pre-season until he was unveiled as a number 8 against Stoke, scored, and we were just unplayable against Stoke in that game, and then beat Derby 4-1 a week later, scored again, scored against Norwich on the 2 weeks later, and third goal in 5 games, and he was named in the Poland squad. So it was sort of give him a chance, and finally, after being constantly underestimated and underrated, and he I think it was 90 odd games in a row after that, and just unbelievable. I agree with everything you guys have said. Old school player, shit housing. He wanted to win, and that season, that first season against Aston Villa, when Jonathan Kodja injured himself trying to injure one of our players. I can't remember if it was Cooper or and there was no need to kick the ball out. Referee didn't stop, didn't blow the whistle, and Klich went on and scored. Brilliant goal. Caused absolute mayhem, and there were countless stories like that from Clicky. The water bottle, pouring water all over the Bolton player.
Bolton, yeah. Shushing people when he's on his arse on the touchline, wasting time. Brilliant. So many memes come out of one lad, really, don't they? When he was arsehole and he could hardly speak, and he was like, when they celebrating promotion, I mean, I think Alex is on, and one of his sort of bit of artwork is that photograph he took of the graffiti that he did outside on the champion stuff. I mean, how many footballers do that? Weeks after you've been promoted, go and do a graffiti piece of art on the side of the wall, which will, I guess, remain there for, well, certainly longer than his career at Leeds, but he'll be there for many years to come, and he'll stay as part of the memories of, what was a great player, and a pivotal part of how we played under Bielsa, a conduit to getting the ball moved well and quickly from front to back. And I think what I liked about him was you get lots of players who can hit a ball kind of from distance when it's, anything that came to him around the edge of the box or fell to me. Think about the Liverpool goal in the first game back in the Premier League. The goal, I can't remember who it was against, where Dan James headed it against somebody, got saved. It came out him really quick, and it was a crowded scene in front of him, and he picked the perfect spot. He was very calm in front of goal, when it came to that opportunity to stick it in the back of the net, and that's quite a rare time. I think you've said underrated, and I'd probably say he's probably one of the most underrated players in that Bielsa team, but absolutely vital to the way we play. The piece of skill I really loved, and sort of typical of how he could improvise, which I think players these days are really overcoached. And I think the thing about Klich was he always looked he could improvise quite well. And I think it was the Leicester goal where Rafinha hit the ball in him, and he kind of backheeled it into, or somebody passed the ball into him, might be in strike, and he sort of backheeled it into Rafinha, who played it into Bamford to score that sort of, when he lashed one over Schmeichel. Just really clever football, and I love to watch. It's all right having people who are engines and machines and athletic, great, but are they exciting to watch? Not really, but he was exciting. He could get you off the edge of your seat, and it's hard to do from it. Number 10s can do it, and strikers can do it, and wingers can do it, but the position he played, it's hard to do that. So, all credit to him, and a mark of the man that he came back from that poor start and did what he did for the club. So good luck to him.
Yeah, I can't help but think about that midfield that we had in the Championship, where you had Phillips sitting at the base of the triangle, and then you had Klich just ahead of him, and Pablo as the number 10, and they all did the different roles so well. And I don't think that we've ever had, Phillips was so good as a defensive midfielder. Him sitting there allowed Klich to be the number 8, and Klich, the number 8, box to box, allowed Pablo to shine in that little hole. It was never the same when Phillips got injured. Klich's form suffered because he was also used as utility. He was being played as a number 10. He was being played as a 4. So it was never the same, and there was always an element of peril when we didn't have Phillips there, because there wasn't that foundation to build the play from. And if you look at who we've tried, you talk about replacements. You were saying, Mac, that we haven't really replaced them properly. I'd say that Adams and Rocker are sort of mix, that they're both trying to do what Phillips did on his own. Phillips was doing the job that Adams does. He was running his arse off everywhere, tackling people and breaking up plays and man marking people particularly well. But he was also doing what Rocker does, which is progressing the ball up and doing these long sweeping, 9 irons up the pitch, picking people out. So we've tried. We've got 2 players who are trying to do the job that one very, very exceptional player did, which was Phillips. And then if you look at Aronson is like the number 8 now and the number 10. So he's trying to do, again, 2 people's jobs, which is what Klich and Pablo have done. So yeah, I don't think we've fully replaced them. And by the sounds of it, Jesse Marsh has said that he's happy with the options he has in midfield. So we're not going to replace Klich in January, which I think is a massive mistake again.
I do, but I don't think it'd matter under the system. We'll get onto this for the West Ham game, no doubt. But it's hard to say at Man City, Newcastle. We played a different game to try and get a point. West Ham was a game that we came out and played like I guess Leeds should be playing at home, and it's evident to me it won't matter who you had in that midfield. It's really difficult. Again, I won't steal my thunder, but Rocker, I feel sorry for Rocker, because when he came, it was obvious he was going back in the back 4, he was picking the ball up, and he was looking for passes. And at that time, bit like the end of last, still playing a bit of a Bielsa system with that width. You look now and he gets that ball, he looks up, there's nobody to hit. You haven't got a striker in Rodrigo that's going to go up and challenge for headers and win stuff and what have you. Not slagging him off. I thought he had a good game. And there's absolute bar. It's dead balance, which again we'll come on to for the West Ham game. So you've got width on the left with Somerville, and I felt sorry for Ayling as well. He's got an ocean front and back, just nothing. And you get that ball in midfield, and you look up to the right, and you look, there's the right back, and that's it. You come back the other way, and Somerville's 30, 40 yards, usually quite tightly marked. It's really difficult to play like Phillips did in that midfield anymore because we're not creating the spaces or working the ball as well or as quickly to be able to manufacture that cohesion that those players that you mentioned had. We haven't got that anymore. That's a given, but I think a lot of that's down to the system without getting stuck in the marsh again.
Barnes? Clicky?
Not replacing it. I just feel it's another mistake for me in January. It's all very well getting these youngsters in with potential, but for me, I just think we need some experience in that side as well. You could tell when Clicky came on, he was going for it. Obviously, it might have been for his last game, but even Marsh said at the end of the game, he wants players like Clicky to show no fear. Just go for it. And that's what was happening against West Ham. It was all very sideways, backwards. Everyone was fearing and making a mistake. Was it because it was against a rival in a relegation battle like we are? Was it the crowd? But you could tell halfway through the game that when they were making those safe passes, and even the fans could see there was some players free, there was moans and groans about it. It just as soon as when Clicky came on, it seemed to open up a little bit more as well. But I'm a big fan of Rocker. I think he's such an intelligent player, and I think he's probably some of the players around him just out up to speed from where he is. I think he's probably 2 or 3 passes ahead of people. But I think with this system is that it's about players being close together and passing quickly. And if you don't make those passes quickly, that's when it ends up looking really, really messy. But I tweeted yesterday about after the game is that the 2 goals that we scored were quick passes, bang, and they were really, really good goals as well. Came out of nowhere, and it's so frustrating because you could see bits where we actually look okay, and then there's some bits where you just think, what are we trying to do here? It looks messy, and there was players trying to play out of the back, and West Ham were pressing us, and players just got scared, like, oh man, I need to get it out, rather than just thinking, right, let's just pass it out. But no, it's just so frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, there were a few dicey moments where I thought, just boot it up, because if we lose it here, and they were sort of panicked, weren't they? And every time that they're panicked, the passes become less and less accurate, and they have to do more and more work to collect the ball, control it, and pass it again. And and there were a few times where we lost the ball. But I thought that Mac made a good point, particularly well. But if you look at those 2 goals you were talking about, Barnes, we were running in behind. We were running directly at them. And what I've seen Rodrigo do a lot, and I thought he had a good game as well, but he's been dropping so deep. He's dropping too deep, and they all are, and they're all dropping back to come and collect the ball to try and facilitate this, because when we're trying to play out from the back, you can see that it's not working and they need options. So the forward players are dropping back rather than what we used to do with Bielsa was spread out and run in behind.
Yeah, make use of the pitch. You tell kids to do that. It's a very juvenile. I mean, again, I'm the enemy of overcoaching, and I look at how Marsh is doing it, and I think he probably is a very typical modern day coach where it's it's not that complicated a game. Make the pitch big. Stick together, play in little small triangles. Be brave, play with intensity, be inspired. It's not that complicated. And I think if you look at, thank you, Shay. My son's just brought me a bottle of beer. Thanks, mate. Oh, lovely. I know he knows his dad too well. Here he goes. There's the bottle of beer there.
So there are some benefits to having children then.
Oh, it's probably the only one, mate. But yeah, there's one or two. Yeah.
A few years of Pampers and changing nappies, and then you get beer deliveries.
Get beer delivery just like that, without even asking. Bless him. So he knows the score. I've trained him well. But yeah, just disappointing in a way. I mean, I thought that I just look at the way that we're obviously being coached to play the game. I mean, you mentioned Rodrigo. He's not a striker that's going to go up and win headers, but you got Melier booting the ball, 9-9 and it straight down the pitch, centre half's dream. And Rodrigo it's never going to win them, so it was just coming straight back all the time. His distribution needs sorting out massively. It's a real problem. We nearly conceded twice in the first half from it, where he just gave the ball away, and we the straight onto especially down the right hand side. We've tried Christensen. There's obviously a problem down our right-hand side because you've tried Christensen there and it's not worked because he's on his own. You watched him for Denmark. He was like a secret weapon. He was out really wide. People were hitting him with passes. He was storming up and down the pitch. Didn't really he got exposed a couple of times against good teams, but you expect that. Our right-hand side's weak as piss, man. It's like it's so open and so lacking in any sort of... I mean, most of the good stuff seems to come down the left or down the... As I said, Rodrigo won the header from the throw-in, that opened up West Ham. It's that simple. Win a throw-in from a header. Nonto, Somerville, fantastic. Both of them were fantastic all night. And they're a real handful. You can look at them and think, as a defender, you're going to hate playing against those two. But we didn't do it enough. Nonto plays with bravery. I didn't think Somerville had his best game on the ball, but I think him and Nonto linked up really well. And I thought what he did really well, Somerville, he was knocking people about in the first 10 minutes. He was banging people about. I'm back, I'm fit, let's go. I've missed playing and I love that. So there was sort of positives from the West Ham game. Them two particularly, the fight that we showed, I thought when we went 2-1 down, it only looked like there was going to be one winner, even though, kind of quite confident we were going to get the equaliser and hopefully go on and win it, which unfortunately we didn't, but created a lot of really good chances. And I thought that we mentioned Klich, but Jack Harrison made a massive difference when he came on. There you've got a player that, for me, no disrespect to Aronson, gave the ball away for the second goal. Ridiculous. I mean, Cooper didn't help him. Rocker didn't help him by playing that free kick too quickly when nobody was set. But I mean, to misplace that pass straight into Skameka, who, let's be honest, hasn't had a great start to his career at West Ham. Didn't get a kick of the ball apart from that. But I mean, what a finish! There was 3 brilliant finishes on the night, and it was included. But it's given away, same as the penalty, by sloppy, lack of focus, lack of concentration. Strike. To not sort of see that player coming from behind you and get across it in the way, just to stick a leg out was poor. But I thought Aronson was poor all night and lightweight, getting knocked about and not brave enough. And then you've got the contrasting thing of Somerville and Nonto playing with the ultimate bravery, particularly Nonto. That kid's going to be a superstar. I mean, he's low centre of gravity, stocky, strong. People can't get near him. I mean, when he tackled him on the halfway line and nutmegged him and left him on the floor. I mean, that kid's going to be a superstar. And he took his goal. He was right in front of us in the south stand, absolutely brilliantly.
I can't believe that they didn't think he was ready for the Premier League. I mean, are there any other £5 million teenagers that aren't ready for the Premier League?
That's my worry. Is you have a player like that who don't overcoach him. No. Just let him go out. He's amazing. He's got the natural ability. He's brave. He got kicked about a little bit first few minutes. They must have said, go out and give him a nobble and do Somerville as well. He got a couple of nasty ones on him. But, Klufal ended up leaving the pitch injured when Somerville gave him it. And, they're starting to stand up for themselves and mature. And I think Nonto's...
That was ridiculous, though. That was ridiculous. It could have been a red card. Maybe should have been on VAR review. And I actually thought we were looking not to have 9 men because that high foot from Rodrigo. There were 2 of them. That was really bad. I've seen that. I've seen them given.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They were living on the edge, but I think it's frustration. I think that Somerville particularly got took off because he probably would have walked in that game because you could see him getting more and more frustrated. just back from injury. Things weren't really falling for him as they normally do. He wasn't quite as effective as he has been. But I think you can see that that's the future now. Yearby, him, Nonto. Now, forget about Forshaw and Bamford
Greenwood.
and all that now. Yeah, Greenwood he was all right when he came on. But, the players that we've brought in haven't settled well, have they? Let's be honest. I mean, bar Adams, again, I feel a bit sorry for Rocker. Christensen's been,
Aronson's had some good games.
He has, yeah, and I think he's got a way to go, but I think he's lost a lot of confidence and he's physically not up to it.
Yeah.
Rocker, I feel a little bit sorry for, but Christensen gets the starting berth above Ayling, who, to be honest, if you look at the two, Ayling's a far better Premier League footballer than Christensen is at the moment. So, as much as we said, we've done well bringing in those players early, we've got work to do this January. Let's be honest, to bring in at least another 2 or 3, a number 10, a striker. Possibly another centre midfielder, a defensive, an out-and-out horrible defensive midfielder, because we're weak. I mean, the real negative about the game on Wednesday night was I mentioned so already, lack of width on the right, no options, or the general defensive or mistakes costing us. So 2 mistakes cost us both goals. But the thing that really pissed me off was, we controlled and probably were the better team for 60 minutes in that game, 70 minutes. A team can come to Ellen Road now and have 15-minute spell and score 2 or 3 goals. Yeah. So when we're not on top and they're having their patch, we concede like you wouldn't believe. It's so infuriating. It's really frustrating.
So many times this season, it's been the first attack of the opposition. That's annoyed me this season. But yeah, it was one minute before half time we were leading. And 1 minute after half time, we were losing. Yeah. Just so quick, just focus, concentration. It's got to be switched on at all times. Barnes, what did you think? Leeds to West Ham 2.
There's a few points that I noticed. I was talking to a lad and he was like, yeah, I can see that now. So with the distribution with Meslier, basically what he's trying to do, it's not his fault. Basically what they're trying to do, they're trying to create chaos in the midfield for the counter press to happen or the press to happen. And it's simply not happening. The best press I've seen with Leeds under Marsh was at Chelsea. It was every single player pressing, press. And you've not seen that press what Marsh is wanting. That the whole point of the press is not individually, it's a press together. So when one person presses and then people don't press together, that's when there's so much space in midfield at times as well, which is really, really frustrating. And you see more space, and that's when the opposition run into space. You think, fucking hell, we've had a corner, and then all of a sudden they're nearly scoring. So there's that point there. Aronson, he is a little bit weak on the ball. He can get pushed over on the ball, but he's always wanting to go forward. There's one player that wants to create something all the time. And he was a little bit naive, trying to do that clever flick or whatever he was trying to do, and then for West Ham to score. But I still really like Aronson. But how old is he? 20? What was he? 15, 20 million? So there's probably quite a bit of pressure on him as well. And I think he's probably one of our most creative players when he's on it. But he can be a little bit weak. But if you actually watch him individually, he's one of the players that's always wanted to create that press, and it's just simply not happening. I think if the press was bang on, we wouldn't let as many goals in. It's just that when it's not happening, we are so wide open. It's unbelievable at times.
We definitely don't look as fit.
We're not doing it together. We're not doing it together.
Yeah, no, exactly.
In individually pressing, it's not good enough.
No. We don't look as fit as we did under Bielsa, and because we're not playing this man marking system, we're so much further away from the defenders, the opposition players. So that's why, like you were saying, Mac, we're not doing it all together. That's one of the reasons why. One of the main reasons why is because we're not going man for man. So that's why our press was like so much more consistent for the full 90. Whereas Marsh likes to do this 100 to 70 thing, doesn't he?
70-30, isn't it? Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't miss the man-marking system. I'm not suggesting we should go back to that.
No.
Towards the end, I think that it's like anything in it. I think, listen, we haven't talked about the elephant in the room, which is the bottom, and the fact that Radrizzani now, there's obviously some changes afoot, and it's difficult. When we were playing in the Championship, I mean, yeah, you could argue that there was no crowding is a slightly disfigured representation of what might have been, but when we were playing in the Championship, we had players who could do that against that level of footballer, and now we've moved up a level, and we haven't moved up a level in the investment in the team and the players that we brought in. So we're playing against better players who, if you don't press them in the right way, with intelligence, and they'll just go around you with ease. There'll be 2 or 3 passes like Man City, just pass it around you. You can't press the way we've been doing. So listen, the lads out there, I think the thing that I said on there, the positive was everybody was fighting. When Aronson made that mistake, and he was really upset about it, to be honest, it was again right in front of us in the south stand. Adams, a couple of us, Strike, all went up to him and tried to G him up and say, "Look, forget about it, it's gone." There's some signs in there that the trying, and that's a great thing, because I think there's been times, even under Bielsa, when it towards the end when it was obviously going wrong, where there didn't look to be that unity, and I think they are all out there trying hard for each other, and that's in a way I think. Bigwig said it, didn't he? It's all you can ask for is you go out there and fight and try and get whatever points you can get, whether it's scratch a point like Newcastle.
Third youngest side in the Premier League.
Well, second lowest wage bill. Marsh is like the second or third lowest paid manager. I've worked in football who bought football clubs. Usually you'll finish where your budget takes you. So the people who spend the most finish top. The people who spend second finish second. The 3 teams that spend the least go down. It's that simple. So there's a lot of caveats to everything that we're saying in regard of Radrizzani in the board. And I think before we move on or whatever, that's bullshit. That about him not signing for DC until what did he do? Sign it at half time? They'd had T-shirts printed.
Yeah,
it's a load of shit. That's just a PR job from the fucking club, which is embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
To excuse the fact that everybody's got onto him. How you've not thought about a lad that's played? I mean, what was it? 157 games consecutively under Bielsa, 200 plus games for Leeds in total. How you've not thought it's his last game, and if you're going to do a send off of any description and make a montage, last minute doc.
Yeah.
To announce him, even when the final whistle went. Look, people stayed behind. It's Klich's last game. That stadium was, it wasn't even half empty. There was about 3,000-4,000 people left in that stadium. To send off a lad that's give his all for the club for 6 years, is it 5-6 years? I think that's embarrassing. And what it does to me is it underlines, and this is my frustration with the club at the minute, is all that kind of unity and togetherness and kind of cohesion and identity we had when we got promoted has gone, but also that communication, that bond with the fans has gone completely. Because if you had anything about you, you would have made sure that every fan that wanted to say thank you and sing that song and was in that stadium when Klich left the pitch. And that's all I want to say about it, because I don't want to get stuck into people. It's tough times for us. There's a lot of changes at boardroom level. It sounds like things are going to change at that level, but I think it's embarrassing.
It's love, isn't it? It's love. When you love something, when you put love into something, doesn't matter what it is, cooking or whatever it is. But in this instance, a football club or a business, the attention to detail, the care is there, and it's so clear and so obvious. On the one hand, you get T-shirts made, but on the other hand, you don't do something so simple as make an announcement to say we'll be saying goodbye to one of our heroes at the end of the testimonials. Where have they gone? Where's Pablo's testimonial?
Disgusting. They're not interested anymore. That's the problem. They've switched off, and that's the thing that you can't accuse them of. Previously, is they have been pretty good at all that stuff. The obvious errors, put aside. The kind of communication and that transparency and the working with the fans has been brilliant, but it's gone, mate. It's properly gone. And that was a great embodiment and a kind of testament to that was what happened on Wednesday night, because it poorly organised, badly thought out, last minute. Again, I felt sorry for Klich because I'd love him to have had 30,000, whatever would have been left in that stadium, singing that song to him as he walked off the pitch. It would have been even more emotional, you know. So I think that's poor. And again, I don't want to get stuck into people, but I think that's a really poor indictment to how the club's been run or not run at the moment. And for Kinnear to come out and say we want a cup run, it just typifies the sound bites and the bullshit and that announcement about I haven't been signed before. The load of bollocks, you know. All the PR's coming out now, but listen, we know.
Yeah.
I think for me is that the club is so good to show off when everything's going well, but when it's not, they're very, very quiet. And especially Kinnear, he's very cocky in his programme notes, isn't he? But someone mentioned to me yesterday, said, "Where's Angus Kinnear gone? He's really quiet at the moment," and it's quite obvious something's happening behind the scenes, but that's not fair on the fans that are going to the ground and still supporting the club, where the communication has been lacking recently, and just some sort of we just want some sort of direction on where this club is going. And I completely understand that the Premier League is a fucking hard league to play in, but sometimes you need to give the people the right tools as well. And I know Orta has a lot of critics about him, but if you gave him the right budget, I reckon he could do pretty well in the transfer window. But when he's got one hand tied behind his back and a limited budget, and then sometimes when we're linked with Gappo, I just think that the board has said go for him. Then all of a sudden I've got him. He wants this. Oh no, we can't afford that. And it must feel really. If you've got a deal going through, then all of a sudden no, it's not going through because of we can't afford him, but also because of Louis van Gaal saying it's not a good move for you. It must be really frustrating as a recruitment director that you can't get those players through because of their financial restraints as well.
Massively frustrating. It must be massively frustrating, especially when you're flying around Europe and you're putting presentations together and you're speaking to families and you're speaking to coaches and you're speaking to his coach when he was 15 and trying to ascertain what kind of personality he is and putting in all this work, and at the end of the day it's like, oh sorry, we don't have enough money for that. And if you look at many other clubs, of course, the Man Cities, the Chelseas, the Arsenals, they're going to spend loads more money. Newcastle, we played them. We were accused of playing anti-football at Newcastle, but I liked that.
Cheek, the bastards. Cheek. Fucking hell.
I did like that. I liked that. We need more of that, and that's another reason why I can't understand why we're letting Click It go. Right, we've got not much time left. We've got to talk about Willie, maybe the FA Cup, Wöber and Vialli. Take your pick.
Start with Willie, yeah?
Yeah, let's just say 30 seconds each about the Willie chant. For me personally, I tweeted it today, and I just think it's an absolutely ridiculous chant. I do find it racist. You've got kids in that ground. If your son or daughter turned around to you and said, "Daddy, why are they singing that?" What are you going to say to him? It's just a ridiculous chant. He's a 19-year-old lad and he's talking about his cock. I just don't get it. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's not even banter. That it's not. It's just ridiculous. And that's all I've got to say about it, because it's people just can't see the wood for the trees sometimes.
I think it's an education problem, isn't it? So you have to go out of your way to understand that Darwin's evolutionary theory of the savages and the essentially the white race is more evolved, that's ingrained into our culture and society, and it's because you have to go out of your way to educate yourself. Most people won't do it, and I can see where they're coming from. When they made up the chant, like it's probably just a laugh. They're not sitting around somewhere in their Nazi uniforms coming up with this chant. They're just some drunk lads having fun. But again, it goes back to the board and the club, and they've dropped the ball on that, and they had to do something more than this subtle tweet, and he plays for United. You know, they needed to crack down on it, and they needed to contact, show racism, the red card, and kick it out of football, and all these different institutions that have done so much good work over the years. We pioneered some of that stuff in the 80s by getting rid of the National Front from Ellen Road. So, you know, they just need to get it. It's so cringeworthy every time it comes up. He's one of the most talented players in this team, and he's probably been our best attacking threat. He's so intelligent, got vision, drive. That goal was fantastic, one of the best goals of the season so far. And he's got so much more about him than where he's from and what his skin color is. I think it's ridiculous.
I do think though that, like, for me, that some of the fanzines and also the trust, they could come out, and because people seem to listen to those outlets as for the local club as well. I think that some of they need to come out and say something as well. And I think from that tweet and what they put on social media, you would have thought, hang on a minute, yeah, that's probably a good idea. But I think it was quite simple. But the fact that they started chanting it again on Wednesday night, especially when there was kids there, I just thought it just felt really awkward.
It's a funny one for me because I've come from a time where I've heard everything in a football ground, you know. So it's the least, you know, it's possibly the least offensive thing I've ever heard people get upset about in some respects, you know, because I've heard it a lot back in the 80s and what have you. I think for me, you know, like I think Barry said it, singing about anybody's body parts at 19 is a bit worrying. I think that it's cool that you take the race out of it. You know, our Italians going to get upset because they all drink Moretti and eat spaghetti, possibly not, but there was a guy at London Leeds on Twitter who said, you know, as a black man, he finds it offensive. And I think that's the problem. We're three white blokes talking about it. And, you know, if black people find it offensive because it's racial stereotyping, not the rest of it, then you've got to be really conscious and aware of that in this day and age. Are lads in the South Stand going to care? Are they going to stop singing it because Rad Razani or the Square Ball or anybody else has them to? Probably not. So I think, unfortunately, we're probably stuck with it. You know, somebody made a good point today. We didn't sing, you know, Pablo's song wasn't he drinks Estrella, he eats paella. You know, his cock's massive. And if it was, I'd love people to sing about my cock being massive. Listen, that'd be fucking great, you know, crack on. But I think it's the which, unfortunately, however diverse and however conscious you are, can't really make a comment about how offensive it is. I think, unfortunately, the young, and this is what's horrible, a 19-year-old lad who's come to the club very recently, is going to have to come out and say something, I think, to get people to stop doing it. And that's not right either. You know, I think about the Enoch Shawonwa chant, which I found hilarious at the time, but again, is massively offensive, you know. And it's not until you start to take a step back, you know, when you're in the ground and you've had a few drinks and you get involved in that stuff, that you start to think it's probably not right to do that. I don't know how
for me, it's more than offensive. It's more than offensive. And the reason is because Britain went around the world, like, you know, our ancestors, and we, you know, subjugated, raped, pillaged, killed indigenous peoples and took their land. And when I went to Australia, you know, that's the kind of first time I learned, you know, about, you know, when I was in school, in high school in England, you'd learn about, oh, we defeated the Nazis and, you know, stuff like that. when you remove yourself from that context, you understand how you've been shown so much propaganda. And, you know, where I lived in Australia and Tasmania, you know, the British soldiers formed a line and they walked from one end of Tasmania to the other, shooting every indigenous Aboriginal Australian they could see. And it's one of the only cases of what they believe is a almost complete genocide of a peoples. And it's not about, like, you know, being woke or any of that kind of stuff. It's not about trying to be more inclusive. It's about
just being a snowflake.
It's about redemption. It's about redemption. And calling black people savages or less evolved, giving them animalistic, hypersexualized characteristics is unscientifically, it's inaccurate for a start, because there isn't that much difference with appendages.
He's got a tiny penis?
They aren't. He's a little willy. They aren't. They aren't animals. They're human beings, and othering them like that was how we sort of consoled ourselves with raping them and taking their land and killing them.
I agree. I just think try to explain that to a lad in the South Stand. You know what the South Stand's like. I've been in plenty of times. I think Michael Brown's made a comment there. Well, I think that's the thing you'd have to listen to. And, if Willie Gnonto's family are in that stand, which they possibly were, and they hear that, how awful is that to have your son having his penis talked about in front of 37,000 people? I mean, yes, it's just a song. That's how people are going to excuse it. But we have to change that song. And, I said before that he's better than Messi. He's actually a better finish to that song and is less offensive and will build Willie up. The thing about Willie Gnonto is, let's be honest, in the next 12 to 18 months, if he continues on the trajectory that he's on, everybody's going to be looking at him in the Premier League and beyond, right? He's Italian. He's played for Italy, so Italian clubs are going to look at him. If he's upset by something that the fans at Leeds have done, and Leeds fans can be the greatest fans, and really, Klich-mas said it, and all these people who leave, Pablo. How remarkable are we as fans? Klich is absolutely in love with us. Pablo, I mean, I've been over to Castellon to watch him play. He can't believe it. He's astounded by the level of, interest in his career because he's played for Leeds, for a few years or whatever. But its side, if somebody comes in for him, think, I'd like to stay at Leeds for another year or two, but actually the fans are pissing me off with that song. So it make a and I know that sounds quite about Willie Gnonto and his family and all the things that Donny's mentioned, actually. But actually being really selfish for a minute, I want Willie Gnonto to stay at Leeds for the next 4 or 5 years. I'm not comfortable here, or I'm unhappy because of that song. So you've got to think broader than that.
How much time we got, lads?
Oh, we've got
10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
We can do everything we've got to do.
Yeah, so very briefly, Cardiff FA Cup predictions.
Problem is, probably go out.
Are we going to score a goal in this season's FA Cup?
I think we will. I think it'll be a tough game. Tough game.
I watched them against Blackburn last week. They were playing Blackburn in the Championship. For some reason, I'm still attracted to watch Championship football. I'm probably getting myself used to it, ready for next season. But they've got some injuries, but they are a really, really bad side. A really bad side.
Okay.
If we can't get anything against them, Marsh should drive home on his own and pack his bags, because honestly, they are a bad side. So, and if he's saying he's going to be a strong team as well, I'm expecting 3-0.
Okay.
There you go.
Very positive. Mac, we're going to score a goal in this season's FA Cup.
Listen, Barney's right. We should win. They're not a great side, but they'll be up for it. Let's be honest, even under our Messiah, Bielsa, we got beat by Crawley with a whimper. So anything can happen. That's the beauty of the cup, innit? So I think that it's going to be a tough one. It's really hard to call, because I just don't think we're ever up for cups. I think that the distraction of knowing that we're going to be in a dogfight in the league ain't going to help. I'd like to think we'll win it 2-0, 3-1, something like that.
Okay, and I'm going to guess 3-2 to Cardiff.
Fucking hell.
Come on, Donald. Throwing the cat amongst the pigeons there, Donald, old boy.
I have absolutely no faith in our ability to negotiate a cup run, navigate one, should I say. I don't know. I think it's just, what is it? 10 times out of the last 12 seasons we've gone out at the first attempt. There's only been 2 seasons, that one that you talked about, Barnes against Watford in the season before, where it was the fourth round, I think. Yeah. I hope we get a cup run. You know, he's saying that Cardiff aren't looking very good at the moment. That doesn't make me feel any better about it, to be honest, because when you do have teams that aren't playing so well in the league, sometimes they do this weird thing where they go on a cup run. Like, I think Wigan, when Wigan won it, didn't they get relegated?
They got relegated
a few days later. So there's something about
under, what's his name? Martinez, wasn't it? Yeah.
It's a bit like when you know when you're doing coursework throughout the year, and then when you do exams, some people are really good just turning up on the day, aren't they? And other people are really good at doing your coursework throughout the year.
I was good at neither.
I did.
Terrible.
I opened it up, Barney. No, I think the thing about the Cardiff, they might not be a good team, but I think physically we struggle at the moment. We're not a very physical team, and I think one thing Cardiff guaranteed in their own backyard is they'll put up a fight, and I think it's whether we respond to that. A Championship team are already usually twice as physical as a Premier League side anyway. So, but like you said, Donny, it's the last few years, last God knows how many years experience makes you think. I've got no faith that they'll go there, particularly with Marsh. I think the thing is, you get good cup runs. The two good cup runs you've talked about have been under Warnock and Evans, who are both experienced English managers who understand that cup and probably value it completely. And I think we've got a manager at the moment that rhetoric will say, I know the importance of the FA Cup, but it's about understanding what it requires to get through a tie like that.
Yeah, his job's not on the line in the cup, is it? So
to be fair, though, he did say in his press conference, he says that in America, the FA Cup is really, really important, and some fans get up early in the morning to watch the game. And he says, as a manager who's won trophies before, I would like to win trophies. So, and just imagine if we're in a relegation dogfight, finish 15th or something, and win the FA Cup. It could be like the next Messiah, couldn't he? That's how silly football is sometimes.
If we won the FA Cup, I mean, you're talking about. Didn't Big Wig say in the group chat that he's going to get a tattoo of Marsh?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Have we screenshot that? We need to screenshot that so we don't delete it.
Yeah, we definitely need to go back and screenshot that. Right, last few minutes then, I wanted to talk about this man.
Gianluca
Vialli's book called The Italian Job here, and I just wanted to read you a little bit from it because obviously he's passed away today. So he's talking about in this book, he's talking about Italian football and English football and the differences, and he wanted to try and understand the differences between different cultures and why the Brazilians play with a lot of flair and why the English want to attack and play football and why the Italians are defensive. And he's trying to describe Italian football and English football. And he uses the metaphor of boxers. And he says, Boxer A is fearless. His sport may one day become his livelihood, but he knows that defeat is part of the game and he has learned to accept it. And then he goes on to say, Boxer B is congenitally insecure. The fear of defeat keeps him up at night. It terrifies him. He cannot contemplate it. He's worked so hard to become a boxer. He can't afford to slip up and see his dream of turning professional slip away. Boxing is survival. And to survive, you need every edge you can find. Boxer B studies his opponent maniacally, pushes himself to the edge in training, constantly second-guessing himself. And yeah, there's a bit about you have to win. You're taught to win. If you have to cheat, you cheat. If you have to kick the ball into the crowd, you kick the ball into the crowd. And so Boxer A is the fearless one. That's English football. We expect our teams to go out and play and attack and take the game to them. And Boxer B is Italian football, where it's so defensive, and you do anything to win. Shit house, foul people, kick the ball into the crowd, and do all the things that actually David Batty was doing against Sampdoria in that friendly that we watched before we came live. So that's some words from the big man who died today, and what a legend. We all grew up watching Football Italia, didn't we? So
yeah.
Max, you want to start us off?
Yeah, we'll do. I think just gentleman, interesting, lovely bloke. I mean, you've read an excerpt from his book, but if you ever listen to him on anything that he does, he's a very interesting and intelligent talker. I mean, I've got a son called Luca, and that name kind of came from, well, he's John Luca and he's Gianluca, but Luca was the name that stood out for me, and it almost comes from him. And there was another goalkeeper as well that had the same name, and that's where the first name Luca started to resonate with me. And I thought, if I ever have a boy, there is a Godfather link to it as well, but I'll tell that another day. To Luca, so just everything about him, man. He was classy, he was cool as fuck. He was an iconic football. I mean, anybody who watched Football Italia, if you went back and maybe people who weren't even that interested in football haven't followed it in recent years, if you said, name me 3 or 4 Italian footballers, you'd probably do Baggio, him, Gianluca Vialli, there'd be certain players,
Totti,
Del Piero, Totti, whatever, that stand out in your mind, and he would absolutely be up there with Vialli. The iconic kits, the Sampdoria, that playing for Sampdoria, the seasons he had with them, turning him into a contender for Scudetto. Just absolutely amazing. He's played for possibly my 2 most hated teams, in Juventus and Chelsea, and I still love the bloke. I loved him as a footballer. I thought he was great, but I thought he was classy off the pitch as well. He was a force of nature, serial winner. Everywhere he went, he wanted to win. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a brilliant montage. If you get a chance, I've put it up today, from Sampdoria, and the wording of it's done in Italian but translated to English is fantastic. And the montage showing it is absolutely so emotional. But there's also a clip of him coaching a AA team, like an Irish Gaelic football team, and it's just fantastic, and it tells you everything you need to know about the man. Inspirational, intelligent, caring. He just had so much about him, and to lose an iconic footballer like that, and you think back to the Euros in England, how much we wanted England to win, and then you look at the clips now of him and Mancini, who've been friends, knowing that he was fighting cancer at the time, and that he had to step away recently from the Italian team to cancer. In a way, why the Italians work so hard to win that trophy almost for him. And there's a couple of clips doing the rounds of him. I think it was his birthday during the tournament. Just well respected, revered, icon, absolute legend of the game, Italian game, but world game as well. And be sorely missed, and to lose somebody at 58 to cancer, I mean, fucking hell, what a horrible disease, man. It's just really sad. And but like any great footballer, he'd be remembered for the goals and the haircuts and the kits and all the iconic stuff that you see about him. But really sad about it. You lost lots of brilliant footballers. I was saying today to you two that there's a hell of a 5-a-side team starting to develop up there recently, isn't there? A new addition like Maradona, Pele, Vialli, all passed away in the last, quite recently. But I think he just stood out, and he was that, not only about Football Italia, but he was that first swathe of international football coming to play in the Premier League, not as players coming to play in the Premier League, and he'll be remembered fondly by lots of people, even again people who don't necessarily love Chelsea or love Juventus, will think fondly of, again, a mark of the man in it. So ciao Gianluca.
Barnes?
Can't say much more to that, can I? Nicely put.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Right here then, final thoughts for the first podcast of 2023. Barnes, you want to go first?
Final thoughts: on Monday when you go to work and you see someone you haven't seen over Christmas, don't say Happy New Year. The week's gone. No more Happy New Year. We're already in the new year. No more. There you go.
Okay, Mac.
No, really. I've said enough. It's curry night, so I'm counting the seconds now till I order a curry and have a glass of wine, watch a bit of telly with my kids and missus and have a curry. So there you go.
Okay, my final thought, the first thought of 2023 is, maybe don't sing about a 19-year-old's cock. All right.
And on that note,
Come on, Leeds!
Come on, Leeds!
Clicky, go on!